It's just because it's simple. It's easy. It can lead nowhere. If you just go out and shoot the street, and that's it.
We're just walking the streets on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Got up bright and early this morning. I was up at 4 o'clock. I couldn't sleep. I was so excited to get out and meet Tony again. We were going out with our cameras. We did some shooting, some street shooting this morning. That was a lot of fun. And Tony brought along with him his Zenit. We talked about the Zenit in an earlier video.
Are you famous? No, I am not famous. How about you? Soon? Alright. Kill a cop, you save a life. Uh-oh.
We were having, as Tony and I always do, some really deep philosophical conversations on street photography.
That's it.
Because we love the street, and you know, there's no shortage to what can be done on the street. I've been getting into more of the street portraiture lately, with walking around with my Hasselblad and taking more sort of formalized, if you will, portraits on the street. We have these questions all the time. What is it that brings young people into street photography? Like, why is it such an attraction for younger people? And you had some really good kind of ideas about it.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it's just because it's simple. It's easy. And you don't have to worry about, like you were saying, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about, you know, like models and stylists and, you know, clients, kind of stuff, right? You just take a camera.
Like when you're doing commercial work.
When I'm doing commercial work, you have to worry about everything, right? Or about your own assistants.
Yeah.
It can lead nowhere. If you just go out and shoot the street, and that's it, and you don't really kind of have motivation to go anywhere else or do anything beyond just taking pictures on the street, then, you know, again, it could lead to a dead end.
It's endlessly fascinating, street photography. It's just one of those genres that continues to fascinate us, no matter how much experience we have, or whether you know nothing or you've been shooting for 30 years. There's always an attraction to street photography. So I think for young people, one thing I would say is, for people just starting out, is, you know, don't limit yourself to one style or one sort of, you know, if you're doing a lot of photography that includes, you know, cityscapes or architecture now, we'll branch off and try to get closer to people. If you're shooting mainly, you know, people on the street, we'll get away from that and maybe shoot industrial scenes or landscapes within the city. Or, you know, if you're shooting high profile, shoot low profile. If you're shooting with a wide angle lens, maybe try a little bit of a longer lens. Like, I really don't believe there are any real rules.
There's no rules. You don't have to abide by any rules.
Yeah.
Right? But when you start getting into street, like, genres, then you have to start looking at, like, what made the genre possible.
Like, historically,
who made the genre possible? And what about it? What about that work? If you want to progress your work, right?
So I got a question for you. Your 3 favorite street photographers. For everybody out there, I really am a big believer in knowing the history of your craft. Who are 3 of your favorite all-time street photographers?
That would probably be Robert Frank.
Robert Frank. You just got a book.
I just found the book on the street.
You just found a book
literally
by Robert
on the
Frank.
street.
We're going to try to find that book and bring it up on the screen, because apparently it's unknown to me. But
it's just a little, like, black and white.
What's it called?
It's called Robert Frank, and that's it.
Robert Frank.
I think the publisher is Pantheon.
So Robert Frank, and we're going to see if we can find that book.
Yeah. Bruce Gilden.
Bruce Gilden, because Tony loves the fact that this guy gets right in the face with a flash.
I love that he's a maniac.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Robert Frank, Bruce Gilden,
and, you know, Joel Meyerowitz.
Joel Meyerowitz.
That's it.
I have to say, Joel Meyerowitz is definitely one of my favorite all-time street photographers. One thing I would say, I'll mention all 3, and then No doubt, Henri Cartier Bresson, just the grandfather of street photography. And I'm just trying to think of, there's so many great street photographers. I'm going to have to say Gary Winogrand is probably my third.
Yeah.
But I've got 1,000 photographers that I love. One thing I really loved about Joel Meyerowitz is he started to push color photography before it was even recognized as an art form in the art world. He was one of the first to push the limits of color photography. And on top of that, large format color photography on the street. Is that daring? He's taking this big monster 8x10 film camera and trying to do street photography. That's like, tip your hat off to a guy like that who's willing to try things like that, and had an incredible history of shooting on the street with a large format and smaller. He also shot with a Leica. But yeah, some great photographers out there. And that's a note to some young photographers. If you're just starting out in street photography, look up some of these photographers, and there are many more. We'll put a list in the description of some of the all-time great street photographers that you can look up online. And there's no shortage. The other thing I'd say is Magnum. Just go to Magnum Photos and look at any one of those photographers are just amazing documentary and street photographers. If we had to choose one book, let's talk about a book now. One book that you could recommend to people starting out in street photography, if they really want to get a feel for the tradition of street photography, and want to see some of the very best early street photography, who would you recommend?
Yeah, I would probably say go look at Vivian Maier. Yeah, I would probably lean towards that as like people that should kind of look at and study her work and her life, because at the time female photographers weren't really there, right? There wasn't a thing. And
there were a few, Mary Ellen Mark.
There are a few,
and Susan Meiselas.
Yeah,
there are some great documentary / street photographers. There are women, but
they all broke that mold, that framework of photography being a male-driven kind of pastime.
Still
predominantly male.
Yeah.
And because of that, it allowed her subjects to look at her differently. Right, and the type of photography she was doing, because of the time, because of the quality of her work, the daringness of her work. It's basically a lot of pieces of what other photographers have done in the past kind of culminated into a single person, which is interesting, and a lot of the struggles that somebody like a woman of that era had to go through, right? Everything kind of just culminates into the body of her work.
Look at The Americans by Robert Frank as a great book to study.
Yep.
He traveled across America, documenting America as it was, as he saw it, a very subjective view of America. As a Swiss photographer, seeing America from the outside, documenting that in this great book, became one of the most iconic books in street photography, The Americans by Robert Frank. So I'd say definitely look at that book as well. Yeah, guys, what an exciting time to go out and make street photographs. There's never a better time than right now. This is the moment. Every moment is a great moment to shoot street photography. So there should be no excuses. Get out there, shoot, document your world. Hopefully some of these books that we've mentioned will inspire you to kind of go out and learn about some of these photographers and make you want to create your own great body of work. So go out there, shoot, learn about these great people, make yourself a better photographer, and hopefully this little chat has inspired you in some way to go out and do that. So peace out, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.